Oh, it's me.
It's you? Awesome. So how long have you been studying your master's for?
It's not.
Oh, nice. How long is the degree? 2 years. Okay, cool. Cool. Did you do a journalism undergrad or did you do something else?
Actually, it's my second.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Oh, that's going to be very faint.
Oh, can you hear me okay? How's the
No, I
volume?
can hear you. I'm just like, the person who was going to help me with the AV decided to get COVID like an absolute lunatic. So, well, I think everyone can hear you at the moment, but if like 15 more people join, I don't know, we'll work it out.
Maybe I'll just talk extra loud.
They just like scream.
Scream into the mic. Is there a way to change the gain volume on your computer? Or...
Oh, it's cranked. Oh, it's more just like connecting to the speakers.
okay.
Although maybe there's a cable in here. There's like a whole pack. But yeah, anyway, whatever. There's not actually that many people in the room. Most people are joining online, so it shouldn't actually be a problem. All right. Well, I think we should probably just get started, guys. I said I'd start at 5:30. It's basically 5:30. If people come a little bit later, that's okay. We'll catch them up. So thanks for coming to the presentation today. So these are the 6 things we're going to do. We're going to start with the acknowledgement of country, of course. I'll give you a bit of an overview of Wattle. It's going to look a little bit different because I'm having some issues with AV, but that's okay. I'm going to talk a bit about what students get out of the program, what the program looks like, and what some students have been working on. Liz, who I was just talking to, is a previous fellow, and she's going to talk a little bit about her experience with the program and some of the things that she worked on. Oh, the slides didn't change? Well, that's really helpful. Thank you. Let me try again. Let's try this.
Oh, but it's presented.
It's presented mode. All right, we'll try a 3rd time, and then we'll get it. You can tell I'm new at this job, can't you guys?
That's
good. Yes. Woo! 3rd time. We did it. Okay, and then we're going to talk about the application process, how to write a GATE application, and there's time for Q&A. So I'm just going to apologize in advance. This is the first time I've used this room, and the AV guy that was going to help me make sure it was all schmick is sick. So there's a few things that we were going to do in this presentation that I'm just not going to do because it would be painful and awful for everyone involved, and we don't need that on a Monday evening. Okay. So I'd just like to take a brief moment to acknowledge that I'm currently on the Wurundjeri lands of the Kulin Nation, and just pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to any Indigenous people present today. So there are 2 key people in this presentation that you're going to hear from. The first is me. Hello, my name's Matt. I'm the program manager here at the Wattle Fellowship. I'm the guy who emailed you saying, hello, please, this is the Zoom link. Good to see you. And the other person is Liz. Liz is joining us on Zoom, so she can give you a wave. We can't see it in the room, but you guys can see it on Zoom. And Liz is a current medical student. She's a Wattle alumni from cohort 1. Liz, is there anything you'd like to share about yourself before we kick off?
Not much, but I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Great. You're welcome. And just in general, you might sort of see our website or hear from some other people. The Wattle team is made up of Lynn, who's also somewhere in the chat. She's my boss and the director. You've got me, I'm the project manager. That means I do most of the student-facing stuff, or at least that's most of my job. Hence why I get to chat to you and email you and all that stuff. And then we've also got LeMay, who, if you become a fellow, you'll have a little bit to do with. She does a lot more of the getting stuff done of the job. So Lynn and I get to do the ideas, I get to do some of the work, and then LeMay does even more. So it's a very unequal split, but that's how it works. So I was going to show you a video. I will email this around to everyone so you can have a look, but this is just a function that isn't working very well today. So I'll shoot you a link via email, and that'll give you a little bit more context. Again, apologies. I'm very sorry about that. But I don't want to torture you while I fumble with a Vimeo link, because frankly, like, that's just not good. So let's get into it. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the point of the Wattle Fellowship is to start with, just to give you some context. So when we think about our purpose at the Wattle Fellowship, we think about it as catalyzing leadership that the planet needs. What this looks like is a vision of a thriving, climate-positive world where people make decisions in the best interests of the planet. And to sort of get there, our mission is to develop, shape, and support a diverse community of leaders who are equipped and empowered to create effective action for lasting, positive environmental impact. That's a lot of word salad. And I'm sure any of you that have ever had a job or looked at a company's website will read kind of words like this. And maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. But I think we do a really good job of holding ourselves to account for these things. And if I were to put my own spin in it, I would say what we're trying to do is make the world a better place by giving students the opportunity to learn how to become leaders that care about climate and can do something about it. Okay. There's a line in there about diversity. It might be a little bit ironic being kind of like a white guy talking about diversity on a Zoom presentation, but I do think we make a really concerted effort to make sure that we have different faculties represented, different levels of study, different student backgrounds, and also different values around sustainability and different visions of what a more sustainable world could be. Sustainability and climate change are sort of sticky, messy problems that have lots of different aspects, and we take a really broad view to how leadership can address these. And we'll talk a little bit about what that actually looks like in a couple of minutes. So how do we actually get that vision? To make it really simple, I've just broken the fellowship, which is a 12-month program, into two parts. This is a little bit simplistic, but it'll be enough content. In the fellowship, for the first sort of 6-ish months, fellows spend that time focusing on learning about sustainability, a really broad view of sustainability. Of course, people are bringing their own knowledge and skills, and we just want to keep complementing that. We also start learning a lot about leadership skills. We might look at how we can approach ideas, creativity, public speaking, pitching, lots of things like that. And we also spend a lot of the first 6 months community building. The fellowship is a group of 20 to 25 students, and it's really important to us that those 20 to 25 students are the best part almost of the program, that people feel supported and connected, that people feel they found like new friends in a new community. So we really spend the first 6 months on those things. Another way to think of the first 6 months is we spend the first 6 months really looking outwards. So not thinking so much about myself and what do I want to do and what's my great idea for the world, but really looking at what's going on in sustainability and thinking about broadening our perspectives on what the world needs and where we fit within it. The second half of how we sort of get a little bit closer to our mission is really spent on fellows working on an action project. Again, it's a bit simple. There's lots of like still workshops and mentoring and things like that, but we really are equipping each fellow with some support and a bit of funding to complete an action project that makes the world a more sustainable place or addresses climate change in some way. And again, we've got lots of examples of that because that can mean a lot of different things. And then we wrap up the year with a spotlight event. Some of you may have been to some of our spotlight events about a fortnight ago. And these are where each student talks to a really big audience about what they've been working on. And it's a bit of a way to finish up, show off, share, and maybe meet people that are really interested in the next steps of what you're working on and what you're doing. And I've just underlined at the bottom there, at all times, we're working in a multidisciplinary fashion, partnered with multidisciplinary leaders. So if you're coming from a science background, if you're coming from a journalistic background, if you're coming from an artistic background, you know, there is a place for you in our fellowship, and you'll hear from someone or a few people with your kind of interest and background as well. This isn't a research fellowship, you know, we're not tied to a particular academic tradition. So we really want to make sure that people are hearing about lots of different things that are going on and learning from lots of different types of thinking. If I was to give a few more details, I'd sort of describe our program as high challenge and high support. You know, in a year, we really want to ask a lot of you if you're a fellow. We want to really put a challenge to you that you're going to learn a lot and do something really great and amazing with some awesome people and make a ton of friends and memories along the way. And that's a big ask. So we try and give you a lot of support. You know, we can't just ask the world of you and not give you any help. So every fellow gets, you know, roughly monthly workshops. You know, we're not going to ask anything of you that we're not giving you some skills to do. Fellows can come to 3 retreats. These are usually long weekends. We go away from the city. It's all free. You don't have to pay any money. It's all part of the fellowship, where we go on a deep dive, where we learn about a bunch of different things. We do a lot of community connections. And also it's a chance to like focus and relax at the same time. Those are really awesome events and really mean a lot to the people that come along. It's not often that you sort of get someone saying, hey, let's go out to the bush for a weekend and do some learning there. Every fellow gets one-to-one coaching. Some fellows want a lot. Some fellows don't need as much. That's fine. It's sort of tailored to how much people could use. And $5,000 to $10,000 in action project funding. The funding can be a little bit tricky and a little bit different. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but just know that there is money there for whatever action project each fellow decides to do, whatever that looks like. There's some funding there. We also try and connect people to industry. It's a very flashy term at universities these days. For us, that looks like having workshops presented by sustainability professionals and professionals from different places, inviting key professionals and industry partners along the spotlights, and also helping fellows connect with these people along their journey as appropriate. And the last, but almost the most, is every fellow gets access to a really lovely and enthusiastic community. And a lot of fellows say that that was their favorite thing of many great things. I know that a lot of students, you know, if you're in a class with 100 or 150 other people and you do a different subject and it changes, it can actually be hard to get to know folks. So I think having 20 people for a 12-month period, as well as a couple of staff and a lot of alumni on your side, in a way is sadly a unique experience for some students at university, but a really big benefit of extracurricular. And I think that's something that we try and do really, it's really embedded in what we do and a really important part. We want you to feel like these are your people. Here are some images from our latest Spotlight event. The one on the left happened at a corporate office, and the one at the right happened at a really beautiful venue here in the university. These are just things I want to show you to illustrate where people eventually get to. We might start at a meeting like here, but by the end, people are comfortable and ready and prepared to share a bit about what they did. And I want to share a little bit about what some of our fellows have done. So the first fellow I'd like to highlight is Melindo. So Melindo is a current fellow. He's just wrapped up. And his action project, what he really wanted to do was think about how we can create better education resources around STEM. So Melindo's originally from Indonesia. Indonesia is a country where, you know, there may be a lot of STEM education resources in English, but in Bahasa, maybe not so much. So working with a lot of the Indonesian Student Society, Melindo began creating a lot of resources for Indonesian students that were based on lessons that he trialed with similar age students here in Australia. So he went to schools, trialed the lessons that he wanted to make, and then sort of made a version of that that was appropriate for the internet and social media. Jesse is another fellow. Jesse lives in the north of Melbourne, and he noticed that the street he's on is almost a straight line between 2 creeks. And his project was about trying to convince as many neighbours as possible to rip up their lawns outside their house and plant native flowers to support native pollinators that would normally, if there were no houses and grass and stuff, move between these 2 creeks naturally, depending on what's flowering and where the water is. And he was really doing that to try and fight against, you know, the insect apocalypse. And he's had really lovely results and got to know a lot of his neighbours, which, again, most of us probably don't know so much. April is a fellow who, I guess, similar to Jessie, had a really plant-based project. She was really interested in how can you fight native logging. You know, Australia, maybe surprisingly to some, is a country that has a really high rate of logging. So her project was really about learning as an individual, how can I protect the most amount of forest? And she found out that through attending a survey and proving that there are endangered animals in an area of forest, that locked it off and it could not be logged. And she also used some of her project money to buy a survey kit, which any student at the university, I believe, can actually use to do the same thing. So she's looking to kind of grow that, or at least give people the opportunity. And just before I hand over to Liz, I just want to show the real breadth of action projects. And I think Marushka's does a really good example of broadening. She was really interested, or I believe still is interested, in how climate change is driving homelessness in Australia. So, you know, you can think of floods and bushfires destroying people's homes in recent years, and populations that maybe are relatively well off or in a stable home suddenly find themselves homeless. And I believe that she was really interested in thinking about how can we resource this? How can we make sure that people know that this is likely to be a new type of homelessness and exacerbate communities of people that are already experiencing homelessness, like middle-aged women. So her project was all about actually sharing this story, finding people with different avenues to talk about it, and releasing it as a series of podcasts to try and get more people thinking about, you know, oh, floods happen and a new population of homeless people occurs, and if we don't know that, we can't do anything about it. So I'm just going to briefly hand over to Liz. If you're in the room, I'm sorry, I've just got the speakers on my laptop, so feel free to shuffle around. At home, you should be okay. Liz, would you mind just telling us a little bit about your action project and what it involved and how it went, please?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Matt. And thanks everyone for coming along tonight. I'm sorry that I couldn't come in person. I'm feeling a bit under the weather and I feel like there's a lot of respiratory viruses going on. So I don't want to ruin your day as well. So I'm Liz. I'm currently a final year medical student at Melbourne Uni as well. And I was the first generation of the Wattle Fellows. So I'll quickly talk to my project. When I first came in and sent in my application, I actually didn't really have a strong idea of what I wanted to do. That's the beauty of the Wattle Fellowship. You don't have to come in with a preformed idea. It's often what you experience throughout the workshop, what you learn along the way that really shape what you want to do for your action project. For me, I'm personally very passionate about education as well as sustainability. And I wanted to try to match those two together with what I'm studying, medicine, right? So I want to somehow combine education, health, and sustainability. And it wasn't until quite late, maybe like halfway through the year, that I really had an idea that I wanted to do. So I think that health literacy is very underrated because it links directly into preventative health. And if we can get most of the community aware of the importance of preventative health, we're actually saving a lot of carbon emissions down the line in hospital admissions, interventions, and procedures. So for me, I used my funding for research. I personally love research, and I decided to use my project funding to do a research project. So my project focused on using QR codes to provide health information as well as sustainability teaching in the general practice waiting room. This sounds very niche and specific, but it just occurred to me that once when I was waiting for my own GP appointment, that often the room is filled with ads or perhaps like a lot of pamphlets on the walls that are quite static. I wanted to provide something new and refreshing in the waiting room. And so I designed my little QR code that looked like an earth, and whenever people scanned on it, it will bring up links to either small videos. So one of them was 4 tips on minimizing food waste, or how to grow a vegetable garden. I also included links to the fruits and vegetables that were in season right now, as well as the community gardens that was around the local area. I hope that through this project, people will be able to start thinking about healthy eating, as well as some of the things to do around preventative health. From that project onwards, though, I feel like Wattle really opened up my career, let's say. Like, I feel like a lot of the times medical students have almost like a linear pathway into medicine. Like you do medicine, you become a doctor, you work in a hospital. But through this like fellowship, I realized that I've always loved sustainability, but through this I realized that I can link sustainability with my future career, which I didn't think was really possible before. Throughout like researching and doing the ethics applications and looking at the literature, I found similarly interested people who are current doctors who are into sustainability, and I reached out to them, which linked me onto future projects. So recently, I guess as a continuation of my Wattle Fellowship project, I was able to do a national audit on one of the greenhouse gases that the hospital use, nitrous oxide, which is currently accepted by the Medical Journal of Australia. I think that contributing to literature is very exciting. And if it wasn't for the Wattle Fellowship, I don't think I would have found the opportunity or even thought of the links between sustainability and health. Suppose, yeah, in summary, that the project can be whatever you make it out to be, whatever motivates you, whatever you're passionate about, you should definitely go for it. With regards to my QR project, it's actually still ongoing. I still have the QR code up in the university GP room. So if anyone goes past there, I hope you don't have to visit a doctor, but if you do, you can give that a scan and check out my project there. I'll pass it back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Liz. I'm actually just really curious if I could ask a follow-up, which was like, what did you like about being in the Wattle Fellowship?
Oh, I loved everything. I loved the people. I loved the workshop. I loved the managers. I think definitely like people was my favorite part. It's just so unique. I think often when we study in uni, we're in our own little silos. Like most of the people that I hang out every day are other medical students, and I think just like coming together in this like multidisciplinary project, like you get so much insight. And I feel like the program itself is so much more than just sustainability. A big part of it is on personal development and leadership development. I really enjoyed the retreat that we went on. Like I felt so much more connected with nature. It was just so good, like for my brain and also for my body as well. It's very good. And I feel like after this, I'm planning to do both a Masters of Public Health somewhere in my degree, and I also really want to pursue a PhD in healthcare sustainability and really like push for more of these projects. I think the Wattle Fellowship just made me realize that we can integrate sustainability in any field, and it should be a natural link in any field. So yeah, the future excites me, and I do have to thank Lynn and the team from last year, no, the year before now, wow, time flies, for creating such a great project for program.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. Thanks for being really generous. Some other things, again, I suppose part of what I'm doing in this next point of the presentation is just to like share a little bit more about what fellows have said, because before we get into the nitty-gritty of applications, I just want to try and make sure that as many people know, like, what are some of the benefits? What are some of the experiences people have? And if they sound like great experiences and benefits that you would like, then it makes sense to go through with the application. So I'm just trying to give everyone a sense of why you would even want to do this at all. So I'm not going to read this out to you because my mum hates being read to, and I just have it hammered into me that like adults don't need things read to them. So I'm sorry if you're actually on the train, but anyway, I'm going to email this to you later so you can read it. Alrighty, so we're going to start talking about the application process now, and we're going to start talking a little bit about what it involves and all that sort of stuff. Something that I was really impressed with and made me want this job when it came up and I could apply was in an early conversation with Lynn, who sort of designed the program. She talked about the importance of how we recruit fellows, and that we recruit for potential, not for prior achievement. I wanted to flag this at the start because, we are not a program that just wants everyone who's got the best marks and they've done everything and they've got all the scholarships already. That's not actually who we're necessarily looking for. We want people who are going to get a lot out of the program first and foremost. So if you're looking at some of the things that the fellows have done and feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not that impressive at the moment, it doesn't matter to us. We're interested in where the program can take you and what your journey in the program can do. Maybe this is the thing that unlocks a new level of achievement for you, or unlocks, maybe it's the first step of a really great journey. We would love to be that first step. So please don't feel that you have to be, Mr. or Mrs., 99 out of 100 on everything for us to consider you, because that's just not that important to us on its own. So applying to the Wattle Fellowship involves filling out our online form. Now, the online form is made up of 3 parts, okay? Before we have a look at them, 1, you do not have to do all these 3 parts at once. Actually, you don't have to do all 3 parts at all. You definitely can preview them. You can look at them all, but the software we use currently, you can't save your progress. So if you get started on something and, oops, something's come up and you can't finish it, I don't know, put your computer to sleep, copy and paste the answers into Word, do whatever you got to do. But if you close that and don't hit submit, we don't have it. And pretty please make sure you're eligible before you apply. If you are unsure if you're eligible, ask today, shoot me an email, do whatever you got to do. Just hate to knock people back at the first barrier because they didn't check if they were eligible. And we'll talk about what makes people eligible, like literally on the slide after this. So what are we looking for? Like when we assess people's applications, we're looking for these 4 things. 1, commitment to sustainability. 2, leadership potential and vision. 3, personal and professional attributes. And 4, motivation and experience. So if you look at these a little bit now, we want people who are genuinely passionate. So if you're just someone who's like, sustainability is okay, but actually what I really want is like the highest paying job, maybe this isn't the best home for you. If you're someone that is like, I just want the world to be a little bit more sustainable and climate change to actually like get a little bit less scary, hey, we're here for you. We want ideally to be recruiting people that know a little bit about the sort of leader that they want to become. Again, you don't have to have like a fully formed 12-step plan, but if you're the sort of person that wants to lead like Liz from that kind of research, it's good to know that about you. If you're someone that maybe feels that your contribution is more in education or connecting people, you don't have to know what that looks like, but just knowing that about your personality and what you might bring is really helpful. And my advice there is just like play to your strengths. If you're the sort of person that really likes to build new things, that's a form of leadership. If you're the sort of person that really likes to communicate, that's great. Or if you're the sort of person that really likes to, tell stories or compose music or make art or whatever, that's all a form of leadership. And we just encourage you to think a little bit about how you might contribute. All contributions are good, but they're not all the same. Hey, we know you're students, but having some professional attributes would be really good. This is an extracurricular program. We can't like fail you or anything, right? Like it's not a job. We can't fire you, but we do want people to like rock up on time and like email us back and just like basic stuff that goes a really long way. Let us know when things are going well or difficult. So we do look for people that have a bit of experience and things like that. We're going to see it on another slide, but like the number 1 piece of advice with your application is like get it in on time. And just even little things like getting stuff in on time tells us a lot about the sort of fellow that you might be. Whereas someone that's always chasing their tail, oh, I missed the deadline, sorry. It's, does that show a level of professionalism? And obviously motivation is like the number 1 thing. So we're looking for demonstrable instances of initiative, motivation, and resilience. We have a really broad view of this. It's not a job application, so you don't have to like have done something in a perfectly articulatable way. Initiative and forms of help can look like a lot of different things. All right. So I should say, if you have any questions at any point, interrupt. I won't be able to check the chat until later on, but like just ping the questions in anyway. And if I don't get around to them, when I see them later on, I'll just answer them then. But, think out loud. And if anyone has questions in the room, just like, please interrupt me. So eligibility. If you're going to be a Wattle Fellow, one, you have to be a current undergrad or postgrad student of the university. You have to have completed at least one semester of an undergraduate degree. If you're postgrad, you don't have to have completed any semesters. You just need to be at least 6 months into some form. So if you're like, hey, this is my first week of PhD, don't worry about it, man, you're good. I think this third point is actually wrong. Remain a University of Melbourne student for the duration of the program. I think you're actually allowed to, I checked this with Lynn, I need to change it on this. If you graduate, that's fine. Or if you defer because life's hard, we're not going to kick you out of the fellowship. That's okay, life happens. So that third point is wrong. I'm going to remove it from this slide afterwards. You need to be a current student when you apply, but if things happen or you graduate or whatever, that's a-okay. The fourth point, you need to be in good academic standing. This basically means like you're not failing, because if we're going to enroll you in a relatively time-intensive extracurricular program and your teachers are knocking on our door saying, hey, like this student keeps asking for extensions because they're doing the Wattle Fellowship and they're still failing, that's, the university has a responsibility to make sure that students actually like learn and pass, rather than just throwing lots of extracurricular activities while people go into debt and don't pass. So there is a prioritization, and that's important. But it doesn't matter to us whether you're getting H1s or H3s or 50s. Like, we're not checking your thing. We just don't want to have anyone failing because they're doing this. Look, domestic, international, part-time, full-time, all good. All good in the hood. We even encourage people that aren't at Melbourne campuses to apply. That can be a little bit tricky, but one of our students is based in Dookie, which is near Shepparton, and they used some of their project funding to make sure they could come to Melbourne when we would have in-person sessions. So if anyone phoning in is like from like Creswick or even Werribee, which is in Melbourne but not Parkville, or the Burnley campus or whatever, you are very welcome. And we would love to make sure that if you were to become a fellow, that would be easy. So what makes a good application? One, you submit it on time, please. I can do nothing for you if you submit late. I can't bend over backwards. I can't change the rules. There is absolutely nothing I can do other than saying, sorry, please apply next year. A good application answers the questions clearly. I'm going to say this a few times. This is not a writing assessment. I'm not here being like, what a beautifully worded paragraph. We just want to know what you think, and we want to know how you would answer the question. So just write like you talk if that's easier. I know some people don't find that easier, whatever. I just don't want anyone to think that we're actually like, ooh, this person, they've actually split an infinitive in this sentence, so they're out the window. Ooh, that's an Oxford comma, which isn't technically part of our English preference. So, you're out the window. Ooh, this person's clearly made a typo, and ooh, like that is just not that relevant to what we're recruiting for. Please be careful. It might take time, but I just don't want anyone to think that we're like, a professional writing fellowship and you've got to be like the bee's knees. A really important thing is there's a lot of answers that will ask you a version of like, why do you want to be in Wattle? What type of leader might you imagine yourself to be, and all this sort of stuff. And we want to know, like, why us and why you? Why would you want to be a part of this fellowship? And what makes you a really good candidate? If you advocate for yourself and can clearly say, like, I think this is why I'd be a great fit, we're going to love reading that. So it can be a little bit hard sometimes to toot your own horn. Certainly, I know a lot of people find it awkward. You have my permission. Toot your own horn. Advocate for yourself. That's what we want to see. And we really want to get a sense of your personality and your motivation. Okay, so that's why I'm saying, hey, write like you talk. If we get a fellow that's really different from their application when we interview people, like, we will kind of be like, oh, what's going on? So part one, part one of the form, man, you can do this in your sleep. It's just like, what's your name? What's your student ID? What's your, man, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You can do this one today. You can do it in 5 minutes. You can do it anytime you want. You don't have to do all of these things at once. So, if you're really keen after this presentation, apply by doing the contact form tonight, because it will take 5 minutes. Part 2 is where things get a little bit trickier. I'm going to change my screens for a second, so I apologize if things are a little bit disjointed. Liz, can you give me a thumbs up if you see a new, or are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
I'm still seeing the part 2 application form slide.
Okay, cool. It's time to change it up and stop sharing somehow. Bear with me a second, guys, as I Alt-tab my way through these things. Let's go here, exit, and there we go. All right, so the second part of the application process is probably the one that is worth the most time. So we're going to look at all the questions, and I'm going to give you some examples of good answers for each one. A quick reminder, you can't save this partway through. So feel free to like copy all the answers on a Word doc and write them and then copy paste them in. So here's what's expected in this part. How would you describe yourself? What's something you've done that you're proud of? What would people who know you say you're good at? Who's someone that inspires you? Those are 40 words each. So short, tight, that's like 2 sentences. The Wattle Fellowship program includes a chance to work on an action project. Do you have an idea? Again, we're not asking for a proposal. You don't have to be like, you know, through using QR codes in GP practices, I would give people the opportunity. You know, you don't have to have the fully formed idea. You can just say like, oh, I'm interested in like the intersection of like health and sustainability and education. I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, but I think this is an interesting area. That's fine. The next part's a bit longer, 200 words. So that's probably about a paragraph or a paragraph and a half. This is where we kind of ask a little bit more about your experience. You know, what sustainability issue or issues matter to you? What has been your experience? So if you're really concerned with like cement being a high emitting material, you feel free to say that. And if you've got some experience in researching or an internship or in a construction project, great. You know, if you're really interested in, you know, how music can reflect climate change and you've like performed a piece, awesome. Tell us about that. The second question, tell us about a project or initiative that you've been part of, describe your role and challenges. This doesn't have to be to do with sustainability. This is that question where we're really thinking about your professional skills. And, you know, so there might be element of teamwork or decision-making. It might have been a student club you were involved in or something at work or at home. But we're really looking to hear a bit about, yeah, like how do you operate? Like, you know, when you're actually working, how do you get it done? 3, big question. How do you want the world to like change, man? That's a big question. So blue sky thinking. And why do you think you'd make a good Wattle Fellow? And look, if you've come to this presentation, your answer might even be like, oh, in the presentation, I heard a bit about XYZ. I think I really match that because. Feel free to reference stuff that you read on the website or that I'm telling you or that you've come across. We have another little click thing, diversity, inclusion. We're always keen to know how people heard about this program. And feel free to share anything else. This can include special needs or considerations that we should be aware of. So for example, if you have an accessibility requirement, or if like you're grieving and you might, you know, just maybe not be riding as well as you normally would, just whack it in. It can't hurt if you feel like sharing. So that's that longer part. If we go back to the presentation, which hopefully is showing, and Liz can give me a thumbs up if we're back in PowerPoint land. Yep, thank you, Liz. I just wanted to give you, I'm not going to read these out. I'll talk a little bit to them because I'm going to email this to you. You know, you can read on your own time. But as you can see, like if you just have a glance at these are kind of the 40 words, sort of 2 sentences. You know, how would you describe yourself? Look, I'm really a bit of a nerd. I like walking nature and reading books. I spend a lot of time helping my friends and enjoy slowly getting better at cooking. I'm an average runner, but I enjoy it anyway. What's something you're proud of? I cut 2 slices of bread that both fit perfectly in the toaster slot without a millimeter to spare. Like, why is that a good answer? Because it tells us a bit about who you are. You know, you got a bit of a sense of humor. You feel proud about the little things. We're recruiting for potential, right? You don't have to be like, when I was 18, not only was I the highest scoring student in Victoria, I also built an entire house that uses no electricity. And then I saved a rare frog. Like, okay, like, you know, great if you did that. Thank you for making the world a better place. But like, who does that? Like, not many people. So if you're just like really proud that you like learned to fix your bicycle last week, that's great. I would put that in. If you're really proud that like you gave up meat for like a year because someone made a bet that you couldn't, that's also fine. Someone that inspires you. Look, somebody once wrote, this is legitimately an answer. We thought it was fine. This person's like, I actually don't know who I admire specifically, but I do admire people that have these qualities. It's an honest, clear answer. You don't have to make someone up. You don't have to be like, I really admire Mahatma Gandhi. Like, you know, you don't have to just like give, you know, it's not high school. You don't have to give us a generic answer. For the longer ones, the 200 words, again, this is like a sort of a paragraph and a half to maybe 2 paragraphs. Oh, is it not changing? Thank you. Let me try again. Thanks for telling me. Share screen. Let's try this one. I think this one worked this time. Yes. Killer. Sorry and thank you. Again, I won't read this to you because we'd be here forever. But what I wanted to highlight about this answer and why it's good is they pinpoint a specific interest in a particular skill or approach. So they're talking about a part of sustainability that they're quite interested in. They demonstrate a broader understanding of the issue. So they're clearly not just making it up. You know, they know a bit about the topic. They gave an example of work they've done, highlights the downsides, which is a really interesting thing, and good use of word limit. You know, if you write a sentence on this, it's probably not going to be a good answer just because comparatively, you don't really give us the information you want. You don't have to use all 200 words. But, you know, if I get an application that says a sustainability issue that matters to me is concrete, it uses a lot of carbon. I mean, okay, great. That's an accurate sentence, but it's not quite the caliber of depth that we would really expect. So that's why I wanted to highlight the word count thing. The word count isn't a proxy for quality, but a really, really, really low word count, like 10 words, there's just a really, like, what can you say? And how can you help us get to know you in 10 words? It's quite small. This one, again, is a good answer because specific. You know, tell us about a project. They choose a project. They demonstrate that the project made a difference. They mentioned a challenge, although they didn't tell us quite how it was overcome. You know, that's fine. And they explained why these issues matters to them. So we're learning more about people's motivation, their skill set, and it's really clear as well. Why do you want to do this program? The answer that I've got here, and again, you'll get plenty of time to look at. This person in the answer talks a lot about the action projects. So they understand that there is components. There's a learning component and a doing component. They're open to feedback and they're interested in working with other people because this is a very communal program. So in some of your answers, if you, especially, you know, why do you want to be part of this? If you're able to talk a little bit about what about the program attracts you, whether it's coaching or community or funding or whatever, that's actually a really good thing. Not all parts of the program design are going to be meaningful to you right now in the same way. Some might stand out and you go, that's the thing I want. I'd love to know that in your application. You don't have to be like, the 6 key elements of the program are all equally, you know, 15% important to me. There might just be 1 or 2 standouts, and really feel free to call that out because that's super handy. The last part of the application process is optional. So after you've submitted the part 2, which you have to do to be considered, there's an optional part 3, which is to upload a resume or a short video. Inside knowledge. The video makes a big difference. Most of the fellows that we offered places to last year did a video. It usually was 30 to 60 seconds. it usually was off the cuff. It wasn't, we're not hiring a documentary crew. You don't need like the slickest TikTok editing. It's usually just someone being like, hey, I just wanted to, talk about why I want to do this and like, thanks for the opportunity and blah, blah, blah. And it just really gives us that, oh, this person seems really like friendly and jovial and keen or whatever it is, or committed or passionate. And that goes a long way alongside the great writing that you'll be providing. Because again, a big part of what we recruit for is the community. So knowing a little bit more about, oh, this person seems really keen or this person seems really interested, that's money in the bank. So my one super secret, not so secret piece of advice is, look, not everyone likes being videoed. It's fine. We're not judging you on how you look or whether the lighting's good or whatever. It just helps us know a bit more about you. So my not so secret piece of advice would be like, if you can make time to do like a 30-second video on your phone, please do, because it may very well make a big difference. So before we get on to questions, this is what the interview process looks like. 1, written application and video submission. We're not doing it by Smarty Grants anymore. That's me not editing this slide. After that, we do a shortlist. So about 50 to 60 people who apply, we will then interview either in person or over Zoom if they can't come in person. And then we'll offer places to 20 to 25 people who we interview. And then we get on to the program and all that sort of stuff. So closing date for applications is June 25th. We are hoping that everyone who becomes a fellow knows it by end of July. So maybe about a month after that date. So we're going to move pretty quickly. So that program is going to kick off in August and we're going to do some orientation and then we're going to take everyone out to the bush and have a big retreat and get to know each other. So we're going to move relatively quickly. We're not going to drag you out and make you wait to hear about whether you were successful or not. We're going to let you know fast. So we're at that point. You're welcome to ask questions. I'm going to stop sharing and open up chat. You're also welcome to email me questions if you don't think of them today. I will be in that mailbox like a fiend over the next few weeks, answering lots of questions about recruitment. So please feel free to send them through. But have a think now for 10 seconds if there's anything that you would like to ask. I am going to fiddle with Zoom until I get it to do what I want. Oh, geez. All right. Great. I can now see all chat questions. Let's see. Oh, Lynn's already answered some. So good. So easy. Any questions in the room? Yes.
I have a question about videos.
Yes.
Very specific guideline about what kind of content you have to do in the videos.
Yeah.
Is there like any for your expectations? What do you have to present in terms of showing personality, showing like how we are interested in this program?
Yeah.
What is the key that you want to see us in the videos?
Great. So if you didn't hear, the question was like, what should we put in this video? Because there's no guidelines. I would say things that would be great to hear about, what excites you about the program, why you'd be a good fit. Even if you're repeating some stuff that you wrote in the application, that's fine. Some other things that might be nice about like what you've heard about the program and how that's like influenced your decision, what you would hope to get out of it, or something that shows your passion about sustainability. So again, there may be some repetition between what you've written and what you say, and that's fine. Because really what the video is giving us is a sense of your personality more than like, if we wanted a really structured answer, we just ask you to write. So don't be afraid to repeat, but I'd say the big things are why you're doing it, what you like about it, or why you're really passionate about sustainability. Yeah, those are probably the 3 things that you could put in, and you wouldn't need to put them all. Just one is fine. Of course.
How do you send the video?
So when you go to form 3, there's like you can upload a file. So webcam or phone and then upload it. If you have like uploading errors, just email me and I'll sort it out. We have a question in chat. What are the timing commitments of this program? Great question. I would say probably between 5 to 10 hours a week. We give everyone a big summer break. 10 hours is a lot, and I would probably only say that's towards really peak periods like the spotlight events. Probably never 10 hours, but we do a lot of our workshops and things on weekends or on weekdays after 6 p.m. So if you're working or you're studying, we don't want you to clash as much as possible. So for example, you might have to do 5 hours a week, but it'd just be on like a Saturday and a workshop here in this space. So look, if you're someone that's got absolutely no free minutes in the day, it's going to be hard. But if you're someone that can maybe commit half a day or a day a week, it should be able to work. Good question. Thanks for asking that one. So it's 6:20. This goes until 6:30. I'm going to hang around until 6:30 in case people have questions or want to talk one-on-one. I just saw someone's hand go up. But if you are ready to go, if you've got no questions, also feel free to say sayonara. I had one come up and I'll ask this fellow in the room. The website mentioned that I can also aid my application with a reference letter. Could you draw a bit more on that? Sally, I would say if you like a reference letter, I would say probably doesn't apply to most people. But if you say had prior experience in some sustainability and you wanted the people that you've worked with to add a reference letter, that could be really good. In this context, a reference letter just says like, hey, I think Sally would be great for this because she's a pro, she's keen, she's a pleasure to work with, everyone around her thinks she's great. So short basically just says why that person would think you'd be good for this program. Does the video need to be uploaded by 25th of June? Yes, absolutely. No past 25th of June of anything will be considered. Yeah. Good question. So the question is, do we have any internal metrics for making sure that we have a like diverse or balanced cohort? And the answer is yes, we do. So the first one is we try and have one fellow from each school within the university. So one person from the Faculty of Engineering, one person from the music school, one person from the education school. The second thing, we're also trying to get our first Indigenous fellow. That's a bit of a target for this year. And then beyond that, we don't have too many hard metrics. We try and have a 50-50 gender balance, although that's not a commitment. It's just we try and hold ourselves accountable to that. But beyond that, we want to try and make sure that there is diversity. But as you say, that can look like quite a different thing based on the application. So some people, we might have applications coming from quite disadvantaged SES backgrounds. We don't set a target for that, but we do try and make sure that we're not just getting one type of person. And we also try and make sure that we don't get clones of ourselves. So I know that's not maybe the most metric-based answer, but it does depend a lot on who applies and what the diversity of applications looks like as well. That's a good question. I can't think of any. There might have been some in the first cohort, which was before my time. We have a few students around 30, so like 28, 29, 30, but we have yet to have, oh, actually, sorry, I take that back. Candace this year is doing an MBA. She's been 10 years a professional lawyer, so she'd be in her 30s. I don't know. I have not asked the lady her age. I'm not quite ready to do that. But she'd be in her sort of mid to late 30s would be my guess. So I tell a lie. Sorry about that. Oh, Liz also says we've had mature age students in the mid to late 30s in her cohort. Does this fellowship cover any tuition fees? No, it doesn't. Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, we try and give people their summers because, people want to go overseas or travel or have a break. And if people have, research that they're doing as part of their degree that might take them away from Melbourne, like even if it's to Brisbane or something, or overseas, we try and work with that. If someone was going to do, say, semester 2 abroad, probably wouldn't be a strong candidate because that's where we do a lot of our like community building. But if it's a period of research that goes for a month towards the end of the year or whatever, we just work around it. Of course, yeah. Yeah. One of our fellows, so just to finish answering your question. So the question was, can the project be out of Australia? Yes, one of the fellows this year, his project was all about getting sustainable menstruation products to people in Fiji. So very not in Australia. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the question, and we've had this a few times come through the inbox, is like, what type of sustainability? Hey, all types. Some of the projects I highlighted, they were talking about education. Others were talking about engineering. It's all good. If you were like, I want to look at how, BHP can have a sustainable profit of 10% each year. I mean, that type of sustainability probably isn't that relevant to us. But if you're looking at like forms of well-being or, whatever it is, we're really into it. Probably just not like, how can like a politician have power forever sort of sustainability. Yeah. You're welcome. Like I said, I'm still around for another few minutes. Don't feel that you've got to stay if you've got what you need. Just before everyone food off, we love to read applications. Everyone is really welcome to submit. If you're not sure if you're a perfect candidate, I would say just submit anyway. There is no perfect candidate. There's just people that are like good fits. So sometimes people, when they read a job application or a fellowship, they go, I'm only like 75% there, so I'm probably not a consideration. Hey, I'm here for you, 75%ers. Like, you're welcome. Come along, apply. This could be the thing for you. I'll hang around for a few more minutes. Feel free to ping any questions in chat. If you want to hang and talk one-on-one, that's great too. I'll be here until like 7 at the latest, and I'm going home. But otherwise, it was lovely to meet everybody. Please feel free to head on home if you'd like to. I'm doing a research project starting next semester in line with sustainability. Can I use the funding for the project, or does it have to be a new project? Rebecca, it doesn't have to be a new project, but we'd like this to unlock a new aspect of the project, I think is probably the fairest way to describe it. So if you're just going to use the money to like do your master's and it's not really going to be benefited by any of the things that we're teaching you or that you're learning about, I don't think we'd find that very good. But if it's complementary to your research and doing your research as part of getting more out of what you're learning at Wattle, I think that would be fine. So a bit of a gray area, and it's a bit of an it depends kind of answer. But we're also not going to like audit you and ask you to pay things back if they weren't quite what we wanted. We do ask everyone before they get their money to like put in a bit of a proposal, so you will know that that's coming. It's not like we just chuck $5,000 in your bank account from day one. So there will be some discussions, and it can align really neatly. Oh, look at Liz spruiking us more. Oh, there's always edits. Like there's always, because people grow and people learn and people have new ideas and people have new ideas about their original idea. Maybe isn't that it changes 100%, but often they might tweak it or update it or bring in a new concept or something like that. So I would say I can't think of a single person that like did not update what they were doing from day one, but a lot of people do versions or stay within the topics that they were initially interested in. I would say, I would phrase it more like, we want to learn a lot about what your motivations are, and then make sure that the project and we end up funding is aligned with that. So sometimes people will have a really big ambition and then things are a little bit busy and they sort of submit a project and we say, hey, we think you could maybe make this a little bit bigger, but we aren't like, oh, do it on this area or do it on that area, or we might say, hey, maybe you could get some more buy-in with like Sustainability Victoria. Let's set up a meeting. So I would think of what we're doing is more trying to help people get to where they want to get to, and maybe pushing them to be ambitious with that, rather than directing what they do and what their action projects are. Yeah, absolutely. A big part of what we do is try and foster the community's independence. We don't want people to rely on our direction or our ideas to be good fellows. We want them to be considering what we say, but ultimately pushing themselves as well. Is there any formal certificate we can use as CV? I believe you do get something on your academic transcript, or at least we're advertising that, so I hope it's true. And you're also welcome to use Lynn or myself as a reference. And I guess I could write a letter of recommendation as well. So there's no formal certificate. It's not an academic program, so you're not going to walk away with like a Bachelor of Wattle. But there are ways that you can use what this is as part of your CV. I mean, it is experience. It is an extracurricular program. You do learn skills. But CVs do look a little bit different field to field, so I wouldn't want to talk too much more, because it might look very different for the field you're in than the fields that I'm used to.
Projects that we do on the
Yes.
what's the future? Like one of
Look at this person playing chess in 4D over here. So it really depends on what the fellows want to do. And a big part of my job with the alumni at the moment is there are a group of people that want their projects to keep going, but they don't have any more money. So one of the things that we're going to start working with people on is, where can you find more funding and grants to give your projects more life, or to expand them, or whatever. Some people don't want to do that. They want to keep working in sustainability or bring sustainability to their field, but in a different way, which is awesome. So I would say it's not that many people that I'm aware of that want to just keep their project going, but maybe grow it. But those people, we're really keen to support them by helping them, you know, apply for grants and find where there may be more funding to keep things going. Currently, we don't have any money in the bank to like give them extra stuff, but we can keep providing mentoring and coaching and support as those things keep going, which, yeah, hopefully helps.
So, you experience any kind of ties with businesses or investors who can actually take up the projects as their ideas and expand on it?
So I don't think we have yet. However, one of our students has been interested in turning his idea into a startup, but he just wants to finish his degree first. Another student of ours, a couple of students have been hired after presentations to do like short stints of work on their topics. So that's an industry tie-in that's not quite a good as deal as what you were describing, but, you know, baby steps. Probably, you know, the idea is becoming more of an incubator into startup. It suits a minority of student projects, but again, we'd be keen to sort of think about how that works and support it. We've only done this twice, so there's a lot of learning that we have to do around that support and getting people up. We would love to see that happen, and we think it will, and we're really keen for when it does. But I can't lie to you, it has not yet happened. But maybe next month, like, could be around the corner. Like, I hope so. But yeah. You're very welcome. All right, it's past 6:30. God, there's still people in this chat somehow. Yeah. Hope I've answered questions. Hope you guys feel good. Hope to see applications rolling through. Please email me if you have any further questions, and let me chat to you about them. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week, and I hope all your assessments go well and don't stress anyone out. It was great to meet everyone. I'm going to sign off Zoom. See you guys.